Some days it's not the tidy garden path that helps us find ourselves, it's the forest. Wild, tangled, surprising, full of memories we didn't know we still carried. Today's page is for those parts of us that aren't polished but alive. The wild ones, the watchful ones, the parts that once kept us safe. Hi, I'm Garjana and welcome back to my quiet corner of creativity. This is day 17 of the July Junk Journal Challenge 2025, hosted by Leigh over at Leigh Creates. Each weekday of this month, I'm using Leigh's prompt to create a page in this little junk journal. As a psychotherapist and lifelong learner of our inner worlds, I approach each page like I approach a conversation, with curiosity, warmth, and the knowledge that even scraps and fragments can tell a story. In these videos, I'm not just crafting, I'm gently inviting you into a space where art meets inner work. Today's prompt is found in the forest, and I'm working with a brochure I found while visiting my mum here in Germany. It's from a local holiday park tucked into the forest, one of those places that blend reality and fantasy. The park has sculptures of dinosaurs such as the Tyrannosaurus rex half hidden amongst the trees, as well as real forest animals like deer and squirrels. It struck me immediately how perfectly this mirrors the inner landscape I work with every day. Inside each of us are parts that feel ancient, protective, primal, patterns that once helped us survive but now mostly stomp around inside us like forgotten giants. In therapy, we often speak of parts, inner aspects of ourselves that once took on roles to help us cope. Some are loud and fierce like protectors. Others are quiet observers, always scanning for safety. When I saw these two animals side by side, I couldn't help but think of those inner parts. The ones that emerge when we are under stress or navigating the unknown. My interpretation of today's prompt found in the forest is a way of acknowledging that we are not just one thing. We are many things, many times over, shaped by our histories, our fears, our longings, our hopes. Some of these parts are still carrying stories from decades ago. Old beliefs we needed to stay safe, like don't trust too easily or stay small and hidden. They developed when we were young and the world felt uncertain. They protected us. But often they are still running the show long after the danger has passed. This dinosaur feels like one of those parts, like big, loud, maybe even ridiculous when you see it in daylight, but powerful and often afraid. We all have parts like that. And as I cut these out, I thought of a client I had years ago. Though I never share personal details, of course, there's something universal about the work. She once described herself as both the hunter and the hunted. She'd learned to survive in a chaotic home by becoming invisible, but also hyper alert, scanning for every shift in mood. It's a pattern I recognize in many people, especially those of us who've had to grow up too early. That watchful deer, that reactivated T-Rex, both trying to help. And while I'm crafting here, I pause and ask myself, what's a part of me that feels old, protective, maybe a little out of place? Can I acknowledge its purpose even if I no longer need it as much today? And what part is watching from the edge, hardly visible and quick to hide? Maybe you like to explore with me how we can hold space for all the parts we carry. The protective ones that jump in fast, the quieter ones we barely notice until something stirs, and the wise, watchful part that's just observing. Therapy taught me again and again, we don't need to change or silence these parts. We just need to meet them with honesty and care. So while I'm crafting today, I'm practicing that, and you are welcome to do the same. So if you are finding this helpful or meaningful so far, I would love if you would consider subscribing, liking, or sharing this video with someone who might enjoy crafting as a path to deeper reflection. Your support helps me keep creating videos like this and hopefully making this little creative corner feel like a safe place for us to meet. So, as a next step, I'm crumbling the pictures and roughing up the edges. Not just for making them look a bit more vintagey, but as a kind of acknowledgement. Because survival often leaves edges, shows wear and tear. Sometimes that edge shows up in how quickly we snap at our partner, or how hard it is to trust someone new, or how exhausting it feels to always be scanning the room, even when we know we are safe. These aren't character flaws. They are ancient systems doing their best to protect us from ever getting hurt again. And while we may no longer need to defend ourselves in the same way, we don't need to exile those parts of us either. We can thank the T-Rex and the deer and see what they need from us today that would allow them to rest. So, the dinosaur becomes a pocket, fierce, structured, holding space, and the deer a tuck-in, tucked to the side, gentle but present. In a way, I like that they are both on this page, because healing isn't about becoming someone different. It's about allowing the fullness of who we are to have a home. Sometimes that means making room for contradictions. I have created a little folded writing spot for my dinosaur pocket. Coffee-dyed paper, a tree punch, a few old labels. And I use this for the first part of today's quote. We are forest, not gardens. There's something really powerful about that imagery. A garden is curated, controlled. A forest? Alive, self-sustaining, messy and mysterious. And most of us, I think, carry both. And I placed the second part, some parts still wild, on the dinosaur pocket. In therapy, when someone connects to a wild part, whether it's rage, instinct, sexuality, or the will to run, it's often accompanied by shame or fear. But I believe those parts aren't bad. They are just often very misunderstood. They emerged in response to something, and often they've carried us further than we realize. And I place the final words, some tender and watchful, on the tag behind the deer. Because yes, there are parts of us that hide or hesitate or freeze, and those parts deserve just as much compassion. So, here with the finished page, I think about how many times I've heard someone say, I wish I weren't so sensitive, or why do I always overreact? But what if we stopped asking those questions as accusations and started asking them as invitations? What if we said, tell me more, dear part, what are you trying to protect me from? We don't have to become our parts, but we can befriend them. That's the work. Not to perfect ourselves, but to become better companions to the selves we already are. If this reflection resonated, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Or you can simply take a moment to reflect privately. Which part of you is still wild? Which part is tender and watchful? What do they need from you today? That's for me. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.